Okay, guys, welcome back to the Madcore Hunter podcast. I got Danny with me tonight as usual, and then we are fortunate enough to have Denny more with us. And although you can't see him if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, a little bit of technical difficulties. He's all the way down in Florida, I believe. So tough to have everything come together, but we can hear him just fine. And uh, Denny, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. How about you guys?
Doing good, doing good. Danny, how you doing?
Oh, trying to get my voice back. Sound a little funky, at least I think so. Lost my voice like last Thursday, I think it was. Haven't really been too sick. I'm sure I've got some kind of cold, but starting to get it back a little bit. It just makes it very hard to do my job because I pretty much got to communicate with guys all day long by phone, and when you can't talk, it makes it pretty difficult. But I'll just trying to get over that and dealing with the fact that not really much hunting going on and it's really crappy weather. So
Yeah, well, I've still got cameras out and it's just kind of over. I mean, you still see stuff. We've got food plots out, but I don't know, just not the same. It's January now. I mean, heck, bucks are going to start losing their horns and we have, got some upland hunting in. We go to I think on the last podcast we'd gotten on some wild birds and we go to a place and take to keep the dogs tuned up. So it's always a good time just staying in that. We've had some pretty warm weather for January, so at least in my area, it's been a good time to get out and I'm back to training. So it's not been too bad for me, but I definitely understand where you're coming from. What's the temperature out there right now?
and it's actually warmed up the last 3 days, which has been needed. There's been snow and the roads are just like ice covered from the snow that's been existing for the last month or so. But it's supposed to be 40 here for a couple days and then drop back down. But it's been actually not terribly cold. It's just solid snow. It can't break through it very well and stuff. So it's not really fun to go walk around in it. But I've started seeing pictures of horns dropped and stuff. So gonna try to start horn hunting here shortly.
Yeah, I'm big good. Yeah, I'm excited for that too. There's a couple I want to find. Danny, what's the temperature down there in Florida?
61 degrees. It's cold right now.
My gosh.
It was 80 earlier. We got a cold front coming in though next week, and I just told Rose a while ago, I think it's supposed to get 32 degrees one night. That's very unusual, but it is January. But that day it's supposed to get up to 75s or 65. So no, it's always nice here, but New Year's Eve was cold. It was like 58 degrees. Outside party, everybody was freezing and they quit at 8.
Man. Is the fishing good with that cold front coming in?
They've been catching a lot of nice crappie out of our lake. I'm on a 5,900 acre lake here and it's full crappie and bluegill, red ear, catfish. I don't know. There's all kinds of exotics in it. But yeah, the crappie are biting now. It's off and on. It's the cold front still. It's a cold front, so it affects the fishing. But the cold fronts have got the temperatures to where the crappie. Some of them nested last week. So yeah,
Yeah. Well,
we got
I'm
to wait for temperatures down for them to go to nest, not up. So
yeah,
it's kind of backwards everywhere else.
that's good. Well, I'm excited for this because we've been wanting to have you on, and you've been a part of, definitely more hunts, Danny wise, but a lot of my hunts as well. I think we can get into stories, but I think first buck or first deer I killed with a muzzleloader possibly, and I know that when I killed, it was, not that it's big, but my biggest bull in Colorado, you were there, and just a lot of good memories, and you've helped shape me as a hunter and influence me. So, I'm really glad you were able to hop on. We've been wanting to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we haven't really introduced him, I guess, but this is my dad, and he is the reason why I'm doing out west while I'm doing the podcast basically and stuff. definitely got me introduced into hunting and fishing, and it's become a huge part of my life. So, and he was there for a lot of the start of Eli getting involved with everything too. He's part of that. So we're glad to finally have him on. We had a lot of plans to have Dad on. I talked to him earlier, and I'd planned to do one in person. He'd come out last year deer hunting here, and I was kind of waiting for him to get a deer down, and that just never happened. But also, he's pretty diehard about it. He wasn't here. He was hunting all day. Actually, in September putting in all day hunts, and then we went elk hunting, and I don't know. We're both too concerned, I guess, with staying hunting to take the time out to do the podcast. So we just kept hunting too early and too late and just never got it done. So glad that we can finally get him on. So I guess we'll just kick this off, Dad. Like, I know the stories, and I'll kind of let Eli lead this a little bit here at the beginning, but I thought we should just start with, like what got you into hunting as a kid? When did that start?
Well, really, my first hunt was in 1963. I was 5.5 years old, and I was with my dad. There wasn't very many deer in Indiana at the time, but we was sitting on the ground on our property, and I looked over and saw a nice buck walking down. Of course, I didn't know anything about deer other than they were deer at the time, but the deer jumped the fence and come right up to us, and I was scared to death, and he shot it and, and got it. Dad wanted me to go back to the house and get Mom to bring the truck out in the woods to pick it up, and it's starting to get dark. And after seeing this great big deer at 5.5, I wasn't going nowhere. He put me on his shoulders and took me back. But from that day, I was hooked.
Yeah.
And, my dad's father, grandpa was big. He was a big rabbit hunter. So that got me into that end of it. And
I say
Uncle Bud.
small game was bigger back then, right, Denny?
Well, yeah, we had quail. You didn't have to have a dog a dog would help, but you didn't have to have we had 40 some acres, and there was 4 or 5 coveys of quail on the place, and rabbits. We had a thing called groundhogs back then.
Yeah.
I hunted them before I even had a weapon.
They're coming back a little bit, but yeah, that was a part of me
Yeah.
being young, going after groundhogs. So the farmers, they'll almost pay you to come get
Oh
them.
yeah, we had a lot of places like you guys would coyote hunt and stuff like that to get into farms, and I'd shoot groundhogs for farmers, and that got me permission to hunt.
Did you have rats back then? I know it's like a weird question, but I feel like I hear old timers talking about rats, and like I never see rats. Like getting,
Well,
you hear like the
that
Jerry Clouder like rat killings. Like was that a
yeah,
thing too?
I worked for a dairy farmer that had hogs, and dairy farmer Ray Tucker actually, and we would move the buildings that the hogs were in, like farrowing houses. He had them on skids, and we'd have rat killings.
Yeah.
His
Okay.
dogs, and I was 16, man, and his kids, and we were out there ball bats clubbing them. But I don't remember a whole lot of rats ever on our farm, but we had so many cats and dogs and
Yeah.
and another thing, if you had, a lot of the farmers had corn cribs, okay, and that's nobody even sees them anymore, but it's slatted, and you put the corn in their hole. It had slats in it, so a rat or a mouse could get in it, and then corn would fall underneath it, slats for it to dry,
Yeah.
But people didn't sell the corn; they used it to feed their hogs and cattle. Not that I'm that old, but I do remember we lived off of the farm. Dad had a job, a good job, but we still raised every animal imaginable. And then we hunted, and some of my favorite hunts were the Thanksgivings, and all the uncles were together, and all of us kids would follow along when they'd shoot a rabbit. we'd run up there and grab it, and we couldn't wait to carry out their game, So
Yeah.
I'm still carrying Danny's game out as of last year, this past year. So
Yeah.
yeah, it
Doing it
stuck. But yeah, just living on the farm and loving it, and that's just,
Because
it's been my life ever since, hunting, fishing.
one thing I know
Your
from
dad, you,
talking to dad is just how different it was coming up at his age and being into hunting because there just wasn't like there was information out there,
mhm.
besides some books, I guess you would say, but you were learning on the fly. It wasn't like today where a kid can be online watching everybody do it and seeing how they do it and watching YouTube and all that stuff to learn. So there was definitely a lot more trial and error, I would say, probably back then too.
Oh, oh yeah. We had like a Spitz or something, some white dog, and we had an old coon dog, 3-legged coon dog, and that was our rabbit hunting and coon hunting. Whatever we was hunting, that was the dogs that went with us.
Mhm.
I don't know. Grandpa had some beagles, and that was it. And later down the road, I got into bird hunting, and at one time I had bird dog, coon dogs, and rabbit dogs at the same time. I had a kennel license because I had so many dogs. But yeah, there's a lot of good memories, and it has changed a lot, tremendously. I hunted for several years personally, I probably hunted 5, 6 years before I ever shot at a deer. Just you didn't see very many, and you could only shoot a buck, and on Thanksgiving you could shoot a doe, and that was the only time
Just
you could
on
shoot a
like
doe.
was it though on one day or like that weekend?
No, on Thanksgiving Day you could shoot a doe, and
Really? I didn't know that.
that that
Yeah,
was the only
like
time
would
you could shoot a doe.
do you know like what years that would have been before you could have
Well,
actually got like a doe license besides that? Because I remember you always talking about you had to
well,
shoot a buck when you first started.
yeah, we could shoot a doe with a bow. So me and my friend John, we made it a job. I mean, we got permission from people in Switzerland County to hunt because we would doe hunt. We'd give up our buck tag, you know, um, and then it got more liberal where farmers were getting tags. I got 3 doe tags. They'd call us up and say, "Hey, come over here and kill them, and then you could hunt a buck on my place." So we had about 5,000 acres we could hunt in Switzerland County, and um, I I killed a pretty nice buck just probably a mile down the road from where Eli lives, back towards the river. And
Yeah.
we actually had some relation that lived down there real early on you know, back in several years ago. Nobody that I knew, but I had
Yeah, I don't
descendants of that.
that's still a really good area to hunt.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
I don't know, it's probably gone downhill, but, was when you did the deer hunting, was it because like, now it's so much structured around, like, kinda trophy hunting in a sense. But, like, when you were doing were you guys like, was the meat of high value, or was it just to get one? Like, "Hey, I got a
Well,
deer,"
well,
or
yeah, it was a big deal for somebody to kill something with a bow, you know, a big deal.
yeah,
Uncle Dean, he shot one when I was very little, and Dad tried to get one with a bow, and Dad never did get one. Dad hunted several years, killed one deer, you
Yeah.
know.
was it recurve then? It had to be, right?
Yeah, 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 and that's the way I started hunting with recurve and started shooting tournaments with recurve, and then I don't know, it was probably around 77, 78. I got out of school in 76, and I think it was around that time I got a compound bow, and then I finally killed my first doe, but it wasn't pretty. I had 5 arrows. I used them all. I still had to get one out of the ground to finish her off.
Yeah.
But I still ain't changed much from that. I'm not a very good shot. I'm a pretty good hunter, but I'm a terrible shot with a bow. I don't know. Maybe not. But
You've killed a
yeah,
lot.
I've had a lot of success with recurve. You know, I've killed caribou and, you know, lots of deer and elk. And
That's what I
there's
was gonna
just,
ask you. We kind of talked about you growing up in the farm and such. What what gave you the drive to go out west? I guess who got you into it? Was it just, hey, I'm going? When was like your
well,
first elk hunt? I'd say, or
so
when?
mom had an aunt, Grandma Henderson's sister, husband. He was a farmer in Shelby County, and they lived north of Shelbyville on a pretty big farm. Him and some buddies up there would go out west, and I'd go in his house and he had a mule deer. I was like, "That's a huge deer," and he said, "Well, it's a mule deer from out west." I thought it was a whitetail, you know, and he had antelope and stuff. I don't know if he'd ever killed an elk or not, but he killed a mountain lion, you know, and I was like, the only books that were there when I was a kid was Field and Stream and Outdoor Life, and which was pretty cool, you know, to me. And then on TV, they had out. I think it was called American Sportsman and stuff. I actually seen Fred Bear. You know, they had films of Fred Bear and daggone. Anyway, some other guys that were famous hunters and with a bow, and then they had also gun hunters. And so, you know, that it was my life when I was a kid was nothing but thinking about hunting, and I reckon it's still that way today. You know, I doubt that I go through a day without some kind of thought of fishing or hunting. Um, your dad and I had a discussion one time. My question to him was, okay, if you could only do one thing, would it be hunting or fishing? And you know, his answer was hunting.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, fishing. And he said, why would you take fishing over hunting? I said, I can fish every single day of my life.
Yeah.
You know, as much as I love hunting, if I had to make a choice, it'd have to be, I call it hunting fish because I take it pretty seriously, you know.
If you had enough
But
money,
anyway,
you could hunt almost every day. Maybe.
yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah,
but
that
yeah, you know, you can work at getting the end thing with a deer, you know, but you can shoot a deer or two a year.
Yeah.
yeah,
I can catch several fish a day. But
Yeah.
anyway, you know, I mean, I love hunting. I just love the outdoors and, you know, the friends that we have through hunting. And that's, you know, that's why your dad and I, we worked together, but we become friends because we sat down and talked about what we liked one day. And it's been on since then. I don't think we've ever had a bad day, you know.
yeah,
Yeah. It's it's shaped me a lot. I mean, you guys, especially my dad, he's been on here a couple times. And I just think of, the times going out west and like just the camaraderie with it. Like I think I sent in our group chat the other day, like still to this day, I think Hank Williams Jr. was my top artist. And if you don't go out west elk hunting and have Hank Williams Jr. playing, then you ain't no elk hunter. No, I'm just kidding. But I think music was shaped a lot of that too, in a sense.
Yeah.
The older country, it just kind of was western, and that shaped me a lot being around you guys. I put that with the long trips out there. I mean, you're talking 26, 28 hours in the truck, and
Yeah.
just music the whole time. And back then, even though I'm not as old as you guys, like a lot of times it was you had a big folder of DV or CDs, you had of George Jones and Hank Williams Jr., and Merle Haggard. And I remember that a lot as well.
Yeah. And your dad and I argue over King George, you know.
Yeah.
It was George Strait. Mine was George Jones.
Yeah.
yeah,
Where is it? There's about there's 9 years difference between our age, so there's a little bit there.
Yeah.
He's about to catch up with me now, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
um, it's weird to think like listen to you guys talk because there's 20 years almost before before Eli is in that picture, I guess you would
Yeah.
say. Because, I mean, it's early 2000s that you guys are talking about. And, you know, I lived there in southern Indiana until I was 21, I guess. And I have so many memories. It's hard because, you know, like trying to fit this in, you're thinking about different stories and stuff. And there's just so much. One that popped in, Dad, while you're talking, because I wanted to kind of roll back a little bit to your early archery. And you'd mentioned John. And I know you and John hunted all the time together. But you had told me about John and one of the first compounds he ever had.
Yeah.
Pretty sure he like did some fabrication on that, maybe.
Yeah, you could. I had a bear whitetail hunter. That was my first compound. And Walmart, no, it was Kmart at the time, sold a bow, and I don't know what it was called. Well, it only pulled like 50 pounds, and, you know, just, so John he was a metal fabricator. He could do about anything. He'd served in Vietnam a couple tours, you know, he was a good guy, but he would work on everything of it for himself. Well, he took and put some leather. He took and loosened everything up. And he put leather underneath the limbs, in between the limbs and the stock, just to get more poundage out of it. And we were hunting in Switzerland County on a friend's dairy farm, and he had a persimmon trees, and then about 80 yards away is a nice apple tree, and it's in the cow pasture. And the deer would always hit them. Well, we flipped a coin who got the set where to start out with. So I got the persimmon trees. That's what I wanted. And he was at the apple tree. Well, that night, wind's wrong or whatever. We didn't know that much about it. We just go sit in the tree. There's so many deer down there, one walk by, you know. But they, you know how they come to them too. And anyway, didn't see nothing. So next night we go out. I got to go to the apple tree, and he's getting the persimmon. Well, here come this big 10-point we knew about. I mean, he's nice, you know, 145, 155, something like that. Walks right up there, and I'm sitting there back there watching. I'm going to see the arrow go through him because John's an excellent shot. He shoots, and the deer just stands there, you know. He missed it. He shot again, and he missed it. And then the deer moved a little bit, you know, but it's still like 10, 15 yards. And he shoots again, and he misses it. And then I hear some words that we can't talk about coming out. And there goes the bow flying over the deer. He throwed the... Like I said, we may have had bows, but we weren't very good shots.
Well, the bows weren't that good either.
No,
right?
I mean, I don't even know. You know, I shot 3D back when, and I tried to keep up with the fastest stuff. And I mean, you could see the arc in a 40-yard shot. You don't see an arc in a 40-yard shot now.
It's
know,
definitely a lot different. I know, like what you were talking about with John there, like, you know, he was trying to put more, I think, being able to get more bend out of the limbs in there and increase the poundage on that bow.
Yeah.
I mean, he ended up killing deer with that bow too.
Oh, he killed a big, was 160 on Christmas Day over pretty close to our farm there in Ripley County here.
Yeah.
I think he shot that thing 4 or 5 times. With that bow, he'd get a little bit. He finally got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the stories I always love because you guys had a, I mean,
I do have a good one on Eli. Eli's first hunt with me, he was 3 years old. And we went rabbit hunting. Sam, Durham, and Chuck went down there. They'd always come down one time. We hunt his dad's farm. And he wanted to go, and it was real cold. And Dave says, "No, you can't go." And he wasn't going to have it. He's going. But he didn't want to hunt with his dad. He wanted to hunt with me. So the dogs jump a rabbit, and they're running around. I look down, Eli, this little guy, and he's got his pop gun he'd got for Christmas or something. I don't know, you know, birthday. And he had his gloves off. I mean, it's like 20 degrees out. And I said, "Eli, you got to put your gloves on." He said, "I can't shoot with my gloves on." But
Yeah.
that was our first hunt. Well, I think we got the rabbit.
That's funny.
No, yeah, it is.
Yeah,
I don't remember that one.
I know.
I remember it seemed like on the doe drives, I was usually with you.
Yeah.
I remember those, but, there was one, I don't know why, but, dad was always the rabbit dog, so to speak,
Mhm.
you know, and me and you were like we were laying down on and, like, it was the farm, it's over by dad's,
Oh, yeah.
and I don't know why we were, but it's like a bunch of big ridges, and they all kinda came to one spot, and, I don't know if you really wanted to shoot the buck, I was little, and here comes this buck, and it's, pretty good 8-pointer, but I think you might have been holding out for something bigger. And back then, if you yelled or something, like, I don't still think they were skittish. And I yelled as loud as I could because I think we're a little bit apart. And I said, "Denny, buck!" And you jumped up and you nailed that sucker. And he's like,
Yeah,
"Well, I
roll
really
down.
wasn't good. I really wasn't going to shoot it, but you got all hopped up, so I decided to." And I remember that one. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
another one is I don't know if it was your first deer for gun or what, but I waved you and your dad down, and I said, "There's a buck down here," and you was aiming at you, getting ready to shoot, and I said, "Use that tree," and you turned around and looked at me. He said, "I don't need no tree." You wasn't very old, and you
Yeah.
dropped it, and then another one walked up there, and I shot it, and you run down there we had 2 bucks laying down. They weren't very big, but it didn't matter.
No.
It was a drive. I don't know,
Well,
rod was
and
something.
that's funner. Sometimes I think
Uh,
I
I
put
got a
too
lot of
much
good memories.
emphasis. Yeah, a lot of good memories. Uh,
Danny Danny got his first one when he was 7 with the muzzle loader underneath the
Yeah,
big tree out in the middle of our field.
yeah. That
That was
I
yeah.
I can remember that one because I don't know. You might know the brand of muzzleloader that would have been.
That was
I think
probably
it
my
was a
Cherokee.
I think it was a 45 caliber if I remember right.
Yeah,
But
it was a Thompson Center Cherokee. A
I
little
had shot that gun, but I couldn't setting down on the ground. We had just 2 sticks tied together,
yeah. Yeah.
and I couldn't pick up the gun. So dad, the deer's walking like left or right, and dad would have to grab the sticks and move the gun in front of the deer, and then I'd get it back in the sight pitch. And he did that like 3 or 4 times before I finally got it all lined up and shot that doe. I
okay,
think
here's a
I think I remember from that story, we were speaking, John, uh, his boy was with us on that. And I think I remember you guys made us drag it out. We're like 7 and 8 years old. But I think part of that story was, weren't we dragging it the wrong direction? Weren't even
Yeah,
going.
You took off and headed the wrong way. And me and John just stood there, and they went about 50 yards, and they said, "Why ain't you coming this way?" I said, "We ain't the right way."
yeah, good deer drag will humble you. I remember it just seemed like, we didn't have maybe we had quads and such, but they used to make, like, a harness, that, like, had, like, where
Yeah,
you drag a deer and, like I think by the time I got one, we ended up getting a quad or something, but it seemed like I used to drag a lot more deer. I don't know why that is. Maybe we killed more or just didn't have an ATV or something, but,
yeah.
here's a question for both of you. When, because obviously, Denny, you took Danny, when did you guys like deer hunting? When did you like, at what age, Danny, like, hey, I'm going this way, you go that way? Like, when did you guys split up, so to speak?
So my memory of it is pretty early on. I mean, we always hunted together some, but I can remember like my mom being very upset because dad would let me go to a tree stand at, I want to say, a few times a year, 8 or 9 years old. I mean, it was close to the house. I don't know. His dad could probably verify that, but
Yeah, I'd say it was about in that time frame.
but I usually seemed like those first years. I mean, I don't think he ever killed when I was with dad. I mean, it was probably, man, I don't know if I ever killed one by myself until I was about 12 or 13.
Yeah.
But really, once you became 16 and started driving, and you and Jordan and Zach were out hunting places, and
Oh, well, we
which
had
was a
to. they hunted the dang park and that
Yeah.
was I was 15 the last year I hunted there on the farm we had, and they started hunting the area next to us there, and the hunting went downhill, so I had to start going and getting permission. That was kind of my first experience with it because I always had a place to hunt growing up. And
Yeah.
it was definitely different back then, though, I think. I don't know. Eli and Davy's always been good at getting permission, but like there, I didn't have we knew a lot of people around the area, so it was pretty easy to get some permission. And I think when Dad was growing up, it was pretty, you guys had access to a lot of acreage to hunt back then.
Well,
Now you
everybody
can't really
knew
get anything.
farm.
Yeah.
Everybody had a farm. You know, and people you went to church with stuff.
I say church really helps us, but it's getting bad. I mean, I was talking to a guy the other day. He's a big coyote hunter. He's like, it's hard to even get coyote permission, which I used to kind of use coyote hunting to get my foot in the door to see if anybody was
Yeah.
whitetail hunting and gain the people's trust and such. But now it's like people have coyote hunters just as much as deer hunters. I mean, it's
Really?
with these thermal scopes and everything. I mean, probably not as much, but used to be you could go to any farmer, I mean, as long as somebody wasn't against guns or, killing animals, like they would let you coyote hunt. But it's not that way anymore.
Yeah, I remember where there wasn't no coyotes in Indiana.
Well, I mean, that's why you guys were talking about, being small game around. That was why there wasn't that many coyotes when you were growing up. That's that's so hard to fathom that was the case because they're so thick nowadays everywhere.
Another problem is there's no trappers. There's very little trappers. Everybody I knew that lived on a farm when I was a kid, we trapped. And we shot groundhogs, and we shot, we'd catch fox or shoot fox if you had a chance. That was like killing a trophy buck, shoot a fox, a red fox especially, but then we had some bad snows, blizzards in the 77, 78. It killed a lot of animals, but about that time's when the coyotes came in, they came in and started that just hurt everything more. We just, but quail pretty well got wiped out in Indiana there in 77, 78. Blizzards, just like out west, them 2 winters. But
I know too, like it seemed like the farmers really started clearing more ground to get as much acreage of crops out, and you lost all your fence rows that were there and everything in the 80s and 90s. It seemed like that really became a big trend, trying to get as much acreage for corn and beans as you could get. Definitely hurt the small game. Well, obviously Dad had me out at all times. We fished too, went to Canada every year on trips. Those are some of my favorite memories, fishing, obviously. Being there with Dad and the guys, and you've done that trip, haven't you, Eli?
I've not been to Canada. We were going to go on a bear hunt, and for some reason I ended up not going. But no, I have not.
I never knew that you hadn't got up there and went fishing. That was always a lot of fun. I usually got to go with the guys from about 11 on till I was out of the house and everything. But a lot of memories going up to Lake of the Woods and Red Lake and learning how to walleye fish, because that's Dad's main love, I think.
Well, it wasn't when I was young, but it is now. My dad said it would be.
Yeah. So I was thinking of this earlier today, is what you pretty much, I know you said you started with a recurve, but you were hunting with compound when I was a kid and really big into the compounds, and we shot all the time. What was when did you first come out west on a hunt?
No, I went in 95 was my first elk hunt in Montana. Sam Durham and I went. And I drawed a Montana tag, and the outfitter was right on the border of Idaho. Idaho had a cross the counter tag for archery. So Sam had to hunt there with, we stayed at the same place, but I don't think he had any opportunities. I did, and I shot low, missed one, but I was seeing so many big ones after, this was like the second day I shoot at a 5x5, just wasn't a raghorn, but he wasn't very big. But my gosh, we've seen so many big ones that I wouldn't shoot, and I wished I would have, because I had plenty of elk I should have shot. So I booked a hook another hunt for the next year before I left, give them a down payment. And then that next year, I went out and Todd went with me, and I killed the first day of 5x5. I wasn't going to not shoot. It was an 8-day hunt. It was a lot of fun. I had 7 days by myself. You get a mule deer tag so I hunted, or any deer tag. So I hunted deer and fished for 7 days and partied at night with the guides. I had a great vacation and a little elk hunting, but that was the first one. I mean, first out of state hunt was the year I graduated in 76, and me and Rick Rourke went to Land of the Lakes, and he got a box turtle they picked up, but we didn't get no deer. That's another story. But anyway, yeah. I mean, from then on, it was on, once I went out there, and then been 3 times moose hunting without pulling the bow back, and been close. 2 caribou hunts successful, 3 caribou, 2 with compound and 1 with recurve. Probably the best shot I've ever made with recurve.
How far was it?
It was 27 yards, but he was quartering away from me, and he was a nice bull. So I picked a spot on his the right quarter, and it come out the left shoulder in front of, between the neck and the shoulder. He made a little circle and fell 20 yards from me. Yeah.
Is that the same recurve you have now, Danny? Was it the Black Widow?
He's got. Yep.
That's neat.
I had another bow that I'd bought from Tony, and Jeff Coverworth and I went to archery shoot like 4 or 5 days before we was leaving on that hunt. He was going on that hunt also. And I was shooting terrible. And usually me or Jeff would win, and I was just all over the place. And he looked at my bow, and we got back, and the limb had twisted on it. It was a takedown, and Tony had it custom made. I don't remember what it was, but anyway, the limb had twisted. And so Rodney had a Black Widow that Jeff thought he might sell, and went over there and he sold it to me for $450.
Gosh.
I got busy shooting a bunch of arrows that week before I left, but we killed, I don't know, me and Jeff got a bunch of ptarmigan one day. I had I fell in love with that bow. I think your dad was with me a lot of times. I think I shot 11 animals that first year with that bow. And rabbit hunting, I killed rabbits, squirrels, and deer, and I hunted. So that was 2000, and
I feel like it was
96. That was, I had a note here. Anyway, I hunted with it until 2013.
Did you go caribou hunting in, was it 98 the first time? 97 or 98, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Because I was still in high school when you went.
I think the first caribou hunt was in 97. Yeah, because 96 is, I told you today, that's when I quit. After 96 season, I'd killed a lot of animals with my compound, and I was winning a lot of tournaments, and I wanted the challenge, and I went back to after that. But yeah, so 97 is when I switched to the traditional. Had a lot of success. I mean, you give up a little bit, I give up quite a few elk, too far away to shoot that you would have probably got with a compound, But I shot a lot of nice deer with it. I did kill some pretty nice bucks with my
Yeah,
recurve.
I think of a picture I've got, um, which you could probably tell those stories. Here is one picture is me with a 8 point, and you got 2 bucks, and that was a recurve. That was one of your better recurve years. I don't know what year that was. It was probably around 2000 or 2001, I believe, maybe
Yeah,
2001.
but there was a pretty good story between them bucks. So
Yeah,
the company I worked for had property, but I mean, you had to use your bought and tag gear. But we went over there, and I took Sam with me, and he sat in a valley, and I sat on top of a hill the first morning, and I had 20 some deer, and coyote walked by me, nothing I wanted to shoot. We were kind of hunting good deer back then, you know. So he was like all bummed out. He didn't see nothing. And I said, well, set up there. Then things went into bedding. They'll come out to that cornfield. And he went up there, and I went to the other place, and I ended up killing. Well, I actually killed the buck off the ground. It was run by me by the farmer's dogs. And I shot it running, and I got it. And it was probably the heaviest deer I ever killed, and a big, heavy 8 point. And then the next weekend we went into Big Oaks, and same thing. He picked out a tree. I went to another tree. Well, I seen a really big buck and some other deer. Never got no shots. He didn't get no shots. So he said, well, I want to sit over there where you was. So he goes to this red oak had it. And I went and sat on the scrape where he had. And I just pulled my bow up, and that was the recurve. And here come a nice 8 point. Started, so you got to that scrape. It's like 15 yards away, and was in it. And he turned around and looked. And here come a great big 12 point. And, I shot it at 22 yards and watched it drop. So I went and got Sam about after I drug it up, field dress, I drug it up, and I kind of covered it up with my stand. I said, hey, we was way back in there, and I said, it was an afternoon. I said, we only got a couple of hours. I killed a doe. I said, well, you come over there and help me drag it out. He didn't have very kind words for me when I pulled that back.
wasn't that in like 2 week period or something?
That was 1 weekend and the next weekend.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's funny. But
Hard
Sam's
to
luck
do.
was kind of always like that too. It seemed like when you guys
Yeah, he
were
killed a lot of nice stuff. And yeah, I missed a really good one over by the entrance of the park one time, and was on a big hillside first day of gun season. And I shot over top of it. The widest deer I ever seen. It was an 8 point. And he seen me miss it, and he was happy because I missed it. I'd never hunted the place before. I was with him hunting it, but he was happy that I missed that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, I think you did that a lot though. Like first time on a farm with somebody, you shot something. It seemed like
that was my favorite time. It's the first time on a yeah. That
The
was
exploration of it, I guess.
yeah. I probably with your dad on maybe 3 or 4 hunts on farms. You know that I'd never been on. And killed good deer the first day. You know.
When did you guys go out west first time? What year was that?
It was 2011. It was the week after 9/11.
Was it?
I
I
was
thought it was earlier than
200.
that.
That's 2001. 2001. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't think it was still okay, 2001. So
yeah,
Yeah.
you guys went the year the 9/11 happened, right?
It was a week after it. Yep.
Yeah.
We were in
That was
Colorado. We went, I think we went in 12 Mile, and we was camped right on the Wyoming Trail in Colorado. And I mean, it's basically 12 miles from where we were to the Wyoming line, which is the area that we hunt now in Wyoming, same area, you know. So yeah, and then the next year is when we drawed Wyoming for the first time. Danny went with us out there.
I
But
I think you got
I told your dad, I said, I know how to call, and you got mules. We need to start hunting together. that,
yeah,
that, that handshake was in a bucket truck working on a substation one day. Yeah.
yeah, it worked out good, man. A lot happened after that. Think of all the
There's
hunting.
a lot of fun down the road from there. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that, I think you guys learned a ton, that first trip going out there and being packed in and everything.
Yeah.
Because you guys still, I don't know that you saw a bunch of elk, but you had a big one close.
That was the first day I draw, it was like 50 yards, 45, 50 yards away. I mean, now everybody would smoke it, and he didn't take the shot. I mean, just didn't feel comfortable shooting that four wide open. He is
It
probably the
was,
biggest bull I've ever called in.
yeah, it was only like a 330, 350 bull. No big deal.
Yeah, probably
50
something like
Nice.
yards.
that. That was a great hunt, though. I mean, we were in 11 miles by GPS,
Yeah.
but I mean, switchbacks getting in there. We had 3 meals. Well, Moosey, he carried the camp in. We had a good camp. Snowed on us almost every night.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. It would just light snow, and then it would melt. But we had pictures of great big snowflakes. While we was sitting around the fire cooking something to eat. It was a good hunt, a real good hunt. Mm. The roughest I'd ever been on. Roughest hunt I'd ever been.
Hmm.
Roughest terrain.
Yeah, and well, I mean, once you got on top, it was pretty nice, but getting up there is switchback. I mean, steep. Like say we're 11, 12 miles from the truck, but you probably rode 2 or 3 extra just because of switchbacks.
Yeah.
Had you rode before, Denny? Like you knew Dad had mules. I guess being on a farm, did you guys have horses or anything?
We had ponies and mules, and nothing like what your dad's got, and but then once we decided we were going to Colorado, it was on like Donkey Kong. I mean, I was down there once he get home from church, we was jumping on mules, and your grandpa and grandma, they would be riding with us, and your uncle and his wife, and Steve. I mean, and your mom would go sometimes on those rides, and you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I
yeah,
caught a little bit of that when I was growing up. We used to ride a lot, man. Like I kind of, just as much as a bike was riding a mule and
oh yeah,
kind
your
of
dad. I mean, we used to squirrel hunt off them. I loved the squirrel hunting. We had dogs, squirrel dogs and stuff, and he got me into that. But
yeah, I think Steve had squirrel dogs, then Pop, he had coon dogs, and they would coon hunt off the mules,
yeah,
and I
yep,
mean it's still a thing, but I just they were a big asset back then. And I think like Dad was saying the other day, like, you talk about trapping and such, you could make a little bit of money on the side from coon hides and trapping, and being out in the outdoors. I wish it was still the case, but I guess maybe was, obviously you were early enough into it. Were you guys skinning them and getting a little bit of money because you were talking about trapping, or how did
yeah.
that go?
John Van Osdal and I, we did a lot of trapping. We had muskrats was, probably one of the easiest things to catch, but we caught some coons and occasionally a fox. Like I said, there wasn't hardly any coyotes then. Coyote, even if they wasn't worth a whole lot. I had coon dogs and I coon hunted and stuff, but I think some of my favorite thing was the hunting the squirrels with the dogs.
Yeah.
And that was a blast when we did that because we was riding and stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I think
yeah,
you got into the coon dogs like right as I moved to Wyoming, maybe somewhere around that time, early 2000s. Because that was something I never really did. Was the
yeah,
squirrel
I
hunting
had,
with the dogs too much. I know Sam
yeah,
had dogs.
yeah, yeah,
Another thing that has hurt the mule riding was a lot of big farms have been split up. You've got
well,
serious whitetail hunters like myself. I don't want
yeah,
somebody riding through my food plot, middle November. And there's trail cameras. I mean, even if you did toe the line a little bit, now there's no way,
well,
So it's different. There's very
yeah,
few 500-acre parcels, let alone having a couple of them in the row where somebody would let you.
I mean, your great grandfather, they had that farm across the road. That was pretty big. And then he had part of what your mom and dad bought. We rode to all that stuff. And then the place they called the farm was 450 acres. Your dad had to run of it. I
Yeah.
mean, and I rode on that. I don't know how many times, and it was a different area,
Yeah.
you know?
And then my
And
grandpa was buying a lot of property back then
yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's Danny and I capitalized on that a lot, hunting on John's properties, you know.
Yeah.
It was, you just talk about John. I bought my first farm. I bought it off of him, you know. But
Yeah.
he was friends with my dad and stuff. But another good guy.
I guess with all your years of hunting and the trips and such, do you like where hunting has went? Or like what are the pros and cons of like, let's just say big game hunting now?
Well, one thing, it's a little more complicated for everybody. It's a little more expensive, I think. You know, I can't knock leasing property. You know, that's blocking other people out of an area. But you can't blame a landowner for leasing property. I've done it, and we all have done that. But we got better deer in almost every state because people were letting them walk more. Always. I think I don't think poaching is a big a thing. When I was growing up, when deer started getting, I think people were doing it a lot, and it hurt. You couldn't hardly find a good buck. I mean,
Okay.
somebody'd shoot it at night before season or something, and not everybody was that way. I mean,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's changed for the better for the conservation end of it because everybody's more educated,
Okay.
and what you and your dad do, and Rob, you guys, you hunt year round for whitetail
Yeah.
deer
Yeah, in
because
a sense.
you try to keep them where you want them, and you live it, with your cameras and your food plots and stuff. And I mean, I didn't have to food plot where I lived because we lived next to a state park, and the property had corn or beans on it every year. So
Mhm.
you if I told Tony before, well, I got corn this year, I'll kill a Pope and Young this year. you know, because they'd come out before daylight in corn. They want beans, not a big one. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Uh,
yeah,
what
it's.
about
I think.
what about Western? Like, it seemed like we could draw Wyoming every other year. Now it's, I'm even just doing research, just taking
Well,
5 and 6 and I know to conserve the herds, but it's just, I guess that's gotten so much more popular. Or what do
yeah,
you
it
think
is.
about that?
I think that, yeah, with the education end of it, because I wanted to go out west and hunt from the time I was probably 13 years old, but I never knew how to do it. And I've run into a lot of guys that didn't know how to do it, but they had the money to do it.
Mhm.
And now a person can save and go do it by themselves. So there's so much information out there of, how to do it. And I mean, I've helped a lot of people, I mean, between even me and Danny, I mean, there's a lot of people that started hunting out west because of us.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's more information. There was not a ton of information how to go about doing it, and a lot of people didn't know, and me included, that there was public land out west. And so, I was like, well, I don't know anybody out west. How would I ever go? So I went with an outfitter 2 years, and them 2 years I learned how to call. And I learned that we hunted all public ground. I could have been hunting it without them, you know.
Yeah.
So
Do you remember what you paid for an elk tag in Montana?
I think the first year they were $800, and it was a mule deer or any deer tag with that.
It was
And then
still it was
the next year it went up to 1,200.
that's still
But
pretty
now
expensive there.
them tags though that I were buying was outfitter sponsored, so it was an additional $200 or $300. So it about guaranteed you to get drawed. You see
Yeah.
what I mean? then. I don't
I don't
even know
know.
how they are now.
It's different. I mean, you can't get. I don't even think you can go general every year in Montana anymore at all. I
Yeah,
don't know. The tag's
that's what.
probably doubled, but I was actually surprised it was that much. But I think Montana was one of the more expensive ones 20 years
Yeah,
ago.
but like I said, you probably could have got a tag for 450 if you just put in the lottery. But if you go sponsored by an outfitter, and that's what he suggested, if you go on a hunt, do it. But he was on the Idaho line, like I said. If you didn't draw, then you went and hunted Idaho on an archery over the counter tag. You know.
Yeah. And I know Wyoming, particularly, like when I moved to Wyoming in '02, and for years, Dad was able to come out and buy, leftover tags
Mm-hmm.
and stuff for certain areas the first year or two. And then general, we had about a 10-year period where you could get it. I think he could draw like every other year. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's completely changed. It's 5 or 6 years now to draw a general elk tag in Wyoming, and the prices, I
Yeah.
don't even remember. I don't remember what they were when we first came out, but it definitely went up for the non-resident for sure.
Yeah. I feel like right now I wasn't going to put in, and then Corey found a solution for us maybe. So I'm putting back in, and we're going to try to hunt Wyoming one more time. I mean, my age, I'm going to keep going as long as I can, but trying to draw, it's 5 years when you're almost 70,
Yeah.
it's like, okay,
Yeah,
it's a
that
lot of
starts
work.
making it a little tougher.
Yeah.
Of course, Dad comes out every year and calls for me and goes with me, and got the horses this year, so I'm kind of excited about that. So
I
to
only
get
took
back to you, yeah, 2 years
2 years
of you having to
carrying them
pack
all
that
on your
up.
back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we did all right.
No, yeah, we did. Michael's was a pretty awesome milk hunt, and that's still the worst pack, probably the worst pack I've ever been part of. I think just
Yeah.
where it was trying to get it out of there. It wasn't distance; it was just the terrain. And ours this year actually wasn't too bad.
Yeah, it was pretty easy getting out comparatively to
Yeah,
anything else I've been on. We probably, if we'd had horses, we probably could have got them right to him.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
I will next time I kill there.
Yeah,
Well, I hate to ask like what your favorite hunt was. We talked about your first, but what's a hunt that does come to mind? I mean, it could be anything: elk, caribou, small game, like one that really stands out to you.
I've had people ask me that question because I'm fortunate enough to hunt, Canada, Ontario, and Quebec. Mm, I don't know how easy it is to do this now, but a caribou hunt is the best hunt I've ever been on
Okay.
because the amount of animals we saw in the country we saw and the adventure getting there. And at that time, the cost was relatively cheap. And Danny says it's not that way anymore. But yeah, I mean that I will. Elk hunting is my favorite hunting, and I don't care as long as I can hear one. We don't have to kill one. As long as I can talk to them a little bit, that's my favorite thing to do.
Mhm.
No, you guys really you like calling them, but also turkeys, and I used to hunt turkeys, and that was a lot of fun. But big game hunting, elk, or I mean, uh, moose. I've hunted moose. I don't know if I called one in to Danny, but we got in the way of him, and I was calling. He come in talking to us, and I've been on 4 moose hunts that are pretty exciting and almost happened. If I was using compound on them, I would have had 2 bulls, but I, you know, I limited myself to 30 yards on a moose with the recurve.
That's the thing. I've talked about it on here and to you guys, like, I wanna go recurve, but it's so hard, especially just everything is more educated, I feel like now, and, like, not that I'm, a sniper with my compound, but, like, it does give you more range
Yeah.
ethically. Like, it's just proven,
Yeah.
and I just don't know if, like, I could give that up. Even if I just truly committed the first bull elk, or 170 that's 50 yards broadside, like, oh, I just would I be kicking myself, So it's
Well, I can tell you this, Eli, from what did I say? Yeah, 97. I picked up the recurve till 2013. I killed one elk, and he says the best shot I ever seen. Anyway, I missed a bunch, and I would have some studs on the wall if I'd kept up with the compound. Hunting with the recurve was, I just had to do it. And I did it until I couldn't pull back the poundage, you know.
Mhm.
And then now I'm that way with the compound. It's getting difficult, and I stay active and everything, but it's getting harder. Too many broken bones and this and that in my life. It's catching
Yeah,
up.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got
But
you
yeah,
got want it to fully commit. I mean, I think you could probably go back and forth, every if but I would tell you, if you wanted to hunt recurve in 26, you hunt recurve only. The going back and forth cost me some animals because I don't know, I think it would cost me because I wasn't committed to the recurve as much as I should have been. I was fortunate enough and killed an elk, and that's pretty crazy awesome experience. And I will say, when I shot a spike elk. I really didn't have much intentions of shooting this elk, but like he had turned to leave, and I remember telling Dad, I was like, because Dad's filming and calling, and I was like, just call again. He'll come back in. And he walked by, and I blew up like I'd shot the largest elk of my life
did.
shooting a spike. But I also missed like a 300-pound bear the night before at 17 yards. That was my first shot with a recurve, was a bear. And
I think
so,
we're pretty conservative on the bear too.
yeah, it was a big bear, and like, just if I'd have been more fully committed, because even at that moment, I was sick because I had a compound in the tree with me because I was carrying both, carrying the camera and the compound and the recurve. And I missed a couple whitetail because of just jacking around with it a little bit. But it was pretty awesome to kill an elk with one. I definitely think it's worth doing. I don't know if I ever could just completely switch to it, just because when they're standing out there a little farther, I like to shoot at them.
Yeah, I don't think I think what I am juggling around is committing to it fully for whitetail, but not elk. I enjoy my total archery challenge shoots, and then, out west, just the range. I mean, I think the past 2 elk I've killed have not been under 45 yards, they've been good ethical shots, so I think that's what I'm juggling around, but here nor there, it's just that was a commitment you made, and it's pretty cool how successful you were with it.
Well, a lot of that's due to, a couple friends that have a lot of knowledge about them, but I wasn't afraid to shoot at stuff too. I didn't
Yeah.
wound very many animals. I know I've wounded more with a compound than I ever did, because you're limiting yourself to a yardage. You know where you're efficient. And I shot lots of 3D with it, and that helped me a lot. But you you got to kill some animals to be having fun with it. It makes you set up different. I mean, it's like Danny said, I went in a lot of times, stepped up in a tree and killed something, wasn't familiar with nothing in that area. And that's just luck. But, you're setting up closer to trails, closer to scrapes and stuff like than you would with a compound. You wanted that shot to be 10 yards to 20, that's what you wanted. Uh, I had a couple shots that were like the caribou. It was probably 27 yards, I think, and made a good shot. But that's probably the furthest animal I shot. You
Yeah.
know, and but the fact that I say it's my best shot is because I hit exactly the hair I was looking at. It worked. But it's a commitment, and you can't get down on yourself. I mean, I was always prepared. I can't get down if I wounded an animal, because you can take all the technology you want with a rifle or whatever, and you're still going to wound an animal if you hunt a lot.
Yep,
I
absolutely.
mean, if somebody tells you they ain't never wounded one and never found it, they're not. I don't know that I want to believe them if they hunted a lot.
I'm with you
So
for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
Man, there's so many stories and so much, and I feel like maybe we've bounced around. That's on me a little bit. There's just a lot to go over, and there's so much knowledge. Um, you know, but Danny, is there something that stands out to you with your dad, like a hunt that impacted you? I mean, I know there's the first one and this and that, but
there's so ma- there's
yeah,
so
yeah,
many. I mean, there just is. I mean, you know that from hunting with your dad. Um, I don't know that the my first elk was pretty crazy, and your dad was there, and my dad. That was just an awesome hunt. We drew a crazy area. Shouldn't have drawed it. I can't even draw it. I live here in the dang state, but I just the biggest thing from that is I shot the animal, and Dad thought I'd hit it in the shoulder. And I never looked at it after I shot. I saw the arrow going and thought I was going to miss it because there was real tall sage and I had to shoot over it. And the animal had, from where I thought I was getting the yardage, I don't know. I don't even think I had a rangefinder then, probably. And so you're just guessing on the yardage there. But I remember it being I shot him for 30, and I think he was probably 36, 38. But there, I saw it drop out, so I thought I'd miss. And Dad's like, "You hit it in the shoulder and it ran down the hill." And I'd set back, like reached down to grab an arrow and had my head looking at that and everything. And I just went ahead and drew back because he's like, "Shoot him again, shoot him again." And when I stood up, Dad screamed, and he throws that Black Widow bow down the mountain. He just flung it. And he come over and he like picked me up. I'd heart shot that elk. I didn't know it at the time, but he got to see it fall. And that was a pretty exciting moment because Dad was so happy that I had shot an elk. It wasn't his
yeah,
shot, and he's always been that way. He's always excited to see anybody that's hunting with him kill, and I got that from him. And that's I have a lot of pleasure taking other people, especially out for their first one. First animal of a species. I've got to do that a lot being in Wyoming, just helping friends that have come out. Like Obendorf, I was there when he got his antelope and his first two elk, and that, I mean, awesome moments. Dad was there when called in that bull last year with Obendorf, and he's very appreciative of it and just totally excited. And I've had a couple buddies that I got to be part of. You know, they haven't hunted a ton and take them elk hunting, and they've killed their first elk with me, and it's been awesome. It's just exciting to get to experience that. And you know, just want to say thanks to Dad because he created this obsession with me. And I mean, he tells me that I was in a backpack 6 months with him while he was out mushroom hunting. So I think that's the best way to get kids involved is you just need to take them with you.
yeah,
yeah,
yep. It's a blessing. I've started to do it with my son. Like I've got pictures. We're putting trail cameras out and all kinds of stuff, man. So I'm looking forward to doing that with him. And I feel like I've you know um had some really good hunts. And I don't want to be selfish in a sense. I'm ready to guide him through some. Not right. He's 18 months, but it's gonna happen pretty fast.
Just getting them out there, with you when you are successful is a big thing too. Because I have a lot of memories of, you know, dad shooting stuff when I was a kid, and I remember it because I was part of going and getting it at least, even if I wasn't with him when he shot it. Definitely, I don't know. He and Dad always wanted me to go west. And like, I don't think I knew that as much as, then as I do now, because basically something he always said is I got to live his dream was being out west and getting to hunt all the time. But he gets to come out a lot. So
Yeah, that's neat. And we're a little over an hour. There's just, a lot of, we're gonna have to have you on again, and I'd like to get the camera working or get one in person. There's a lot of times you'll come up for turkey hunting or the fishing and this and that. There's some lakes nearby, so I want you to come on again. But man, I really appreciate you coming on, Denny. It's always good to talk to you and just to listen to some of the memories, and I feel like I learn something every time.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate you guys. I have to get and your dad, and that'd be a comical one, I reckon. Especially we had Rob with us.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I've always thought we should get a round table one and just between you, Dad, and Rob, me and Danny could probably just sit back and let the camera roll.
and laugh.
I
Yeah.
haven't hunted a lot with Rob, but I know the Rob stories, and he's the same way with me, But we're pretty tight too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, uh, it's I just enjoyed it. I mean, if you hunt and you take your kids hunting, always be in the woods.
yeah,
No, I think, oh, definitely. I mean, I've always thought that either one of her dads have on at any moment because they just can't get through all the, all the amount of stories. So there's just a lot there.
Yeah.
yeah. I know.
Because
And
that's one of the other things at some point, like, need to bring that up about, I mean, Dad's the reason. Like, I don't really know why he started filming some, but he filmed a little bit when I was a kid, and like I still do that to this day. That came from a start from him, for sure. So, but we'll have to get on that one on the next one, I think. So,
yeah, absolutely. And appreciate everybody listening. I know. Hopefully, I enjoy the old stories, especially how time has changed. I just feel like the hunting industry is just trying to run too fast, honestly. And I'm younger myself, but the old school stories really that's where it all started. And not saying there's the saying they've taken a poor man's hobby and turned it into a rich man's sport. I'm not saying that you were poor with this or that, but it's just that saying like I think everybody should be able to enjoy and have these stories and it not just take a lot of money or something. So it's good to hear that stuff. But
A lot of my memories is the people. It's not as much as the as the game. Yeah. You remember all the stuff you did with everybody, my dad and grandpa, uncle, you know,
yeah,
Thanksgiving hunts and stuff like that. A lot of fun. You know.
absolutely. Well, all right, guys. Well, we appreciate you. Like we talked about, we're going to be dropping a hunting podcast every other week. And then the weeks in between is the Bible studies. Everything's been doing good. Really appreciate you guys listening. Hopefully, like always, you learn something, you're entertained or educated or something. Denny, really appreciate you coming on. Sorry there was a little bit of technical difficulties. And Danny, I hope you get to film better. Danny, you got anything else before we hop off here?
no, no. Hopefully next time I'll sound a little more normal. And thanks for getting on here, Dad. And love and appreciate you.
Yep. Love you
All right.
guys. Thanks.
Yep. Love you guys. Thanks.